Everybody went to Wikis.
Oh, well, we will be in the Q&A. I'm sure there'll be more questions about Kettering as well. We hadn't, when you came last time, we hadn't realised that this is your church where you were baptised as well.
That's the font. I was baptised in. Yes, in 1962 by your predecessor, Canon.
Would that be Cedric?
I think it was Cedric, yeah, that's right. So this was, my parents were married in this church in 1959, and I was baptised in that font.
Yeah.
So we should have a vicar off, because I've got a long heritage.
I think in a vicar off you would win. It's very good. My daughter will be baptised on Sunday, this Sunday as well, so that's really, it's well used still.
That's wonderful.
And there was not many events where afterwards you look through the baptism books and the wedding books when people come to a Ketterings Arts Centre event, so it was a really special moment last time. But we're here to talk about the book and things like that, but there's so much more that may come up as well. People know you obviously for the communards, being Vicar of Findon, your autobiographies, your local podcast as well with the Earl of Spencer. That one went down very well. Has anyone been listening to that recently? It's definitely worth a listen. And then obviously your TV appearances with MasterChef, Strictly, and many more as well. But now you moved into crime writing as well.
Now you've moved into crime.
You moved into Who knows what's in there? Well, you seem to know a lot about it. We've now got 3 books of crime writing. But I guess the first question is, what inspired you to go into writing crime fiction?
Well, always been interested in it. One of the reasons is a good bookseller, actually. So a great thing about going on book tour is that you get to spend your time with booksellers, and without them, none of us would get the books in our hands. And the first book, grown-up book, that landed in my hand when I was 8 years old was the complete Sherlock Holmes short stories, which my grandfather bought for me at the Arundel bookshop, just up the road, still in business. And I was just fascinated. I was 8 years old, and it just opened up a whole world and a new imaginative horizon for me. And I love the idea of this enigmatic figure, sort of on the edge of things, who could look at what to anyone else would seem to be an entirely innocuous surface and just see a little disruption in the pattern, a little shadow falling, and work out from that the lady in question was a bicyclist who's like Old Hope and roll-ups or something. You know what I mean? Just that brilliant way of seeing the unspoken story. So that fascinated me. And I've always liked reading crime fiction, because I think crime fiction works because it speaks to our anxieties, actually. When you live in a world which is uncertain, in crime fiction you get a familiar world that's turned upside down, and then somebody comes along, works out what's gone wrong and fixes it, and we get a little reassurance at the end of the story. Big surge in interest in crime fiction in the late 1930s. Lots and lots. It was very buoyant then. It's very buoyant now too. Perhaps it's anxiety about the state of the world.
I was going to say, are there people who watch crime thrillers or on Netflix? Yeah, there's a lot of nods out there. At the moment it is a real thing, and I think I've heard similar, that idea of actually, when the world is chaotic, having something where there is somebody who can work out how to...
Yeah, I think so. I think the world is a very uncertain place at the moment, and there are some very serious issues that we face, and maybe that makes us a bit anxious, and then the idea that someone can come along and fix it is a very attractive one, really.
And were you good at solving mysteries when you read the sort of Sherlock Holmes? Could you work it out by the end? I couldn't, so...
I got to be a better detective when I was a vicar, but you'll know exactly what I mean. Vicars and detectives have comparable jobs, I think, in lots of ways. One of my jobs was to try to figure out what had gone wrong. Why had somebody done that, or why was the community reacting in that way? And there's the stuff that people tell you, and there's the stuff that they don't want you to know. And you would have to sometimes, this. It's basic stuff, isn't it?
Wow, I didn't know there was another career after vicaring.
But also there are so many vicar detectives in literature. There are 200 vicar detectives. So mine, Karen Clement, is just the latest arrival in the long list.
Well, I think that was one of the questions I was going to ask. So you've got the first 2 books about a quaint village parish.
Yes.
And then this new book is set in a monastery, and just knowing a little bit of your life journey, and those locations look quite similar to some of the places you've been in your own life. Do we need to look out for a novel of Murder at the Arts Centre at some point? But I'd love to know, where is this inspiration coming from?
Well, I mean, all sorts of places, is the other sort. So, I mean, Canon Clement is the rector of Chanton St Mary, which is a rural parish in a shire county in the middle of England, set at the end of the 1980s. He lives there with his feisty mother and his 2 dachshunds, and there's an estate with a grand house and a historic family at the other end of the parish. Any resemblance to any person it's a little. So of course you find your own experience, but they're not real people. I mean, all the characters are made up. People always think Daniel is me, and it's really not at all. We're just doing the TV script for the adaptation at the moment. We're talking about casting. And they said to me, who do you think should play you? And I said, well, it's not me. And they said, yeah, but who do you think should play you? And I said, well, obviously, Ryan Gosling. Tom Cruise, maybe a bit old now. But he's really not me. He's a version of the priest that you might